All right, thanks, Robert. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, we hear you right, and I can even put that higher.
Okay, great, great. Hey, thanks for having us. Um, Again, my name's Nikia Greene, Remedial Project Manager for EPA. And this is really, we have missed the last couple seminars, but this is really good timing because we're able to talk a lot more about everything that's going on. So happy everyone has joined us, and we'll get started. Daryl, anything opening? Okay.
Sorry,
Um,
glad to be here.
Yes, we hear both of you.
okay, great. Daryl, I'll just go through and then I'll pause if you want to add anything. If I don't hear nothing, we'll just keep on going, huh?
Sounds good.
All right. Presentation outline. Um, all of these sites are kind of in a different part of the life of a site and a Superfund site. All these different operable units. First, we're just going to talk briefly about the current fifth five-year review for 7 operable units, and then we'll go right into mine flooding, Butte priority soils, Westside soils, and then have some questions at the end. Most of the site or the Butte mine flooding, Butte priority soils is kind of in this 6 and 7 remedial design, remedial action, and operation and maintenance, number 8 even. So the current 5-year review is, like I said, for 7 operable units. You have streamside tailings, Butte mine flooding, Warm Springs ponds, OUs 4 and 12, Rocker, Butte priority soils, and then Westside soils. And just so everyone knows, the reason you're seeing Westside soils OU 13 in red and it's kind of faded away, there hasn't been we haven't determined a boundary on Westside soils yet. And we just started the 5-year review. Like I said, I took this picture actually September 15th. We did some site inspections. Really, the purpose and objective of the 5-year review is to evaluate how ongoing cleanup actions are working and measure the progress that the cleanup that we've been doing under cleanup. Site inspections, like I said, the week of September 14th, so those have been completed. And then we're scheduling interviews, and those will be conducted next week and the following week. Sorry. And so the fifth 5-year review report is due. We're planning on having it complete in March of 2021. That's when it's due. And again, we use the 5-year review to ensure that cleanup actions are protecting people's health and the environment. So starting off with mine flooding, a lot going on. See Daryl and I in the background, the pit. The remedial action adequacy review is a real large tech memo that describes the horseshoe ban. Is it adequate for treating Berkeley pit water, right? So that's basically the gist of it. But there's so much more that goes along with that. Together with that, a new pilot project was a treatment plant was built in 2018, and we actually just started discharging indirectly Berkeley pit water and pumping Berkeley pit water back in October 31st of 2019. Also, we have a brand new waterfowl protection plan. It's been revised from the old one from the 2002 consent decree. Talk about that a little bit more. And then upcoming Butte mine flooding CD amendment, or ESD. There's been some changes over the years that we need to revise the consent decree. Basically minor changes, like boundaries and different things like that, and I'll go through that a little bit. And then, of course, the monitoring and operation and maintenance of all the infrastructure and the monitoring of the groundwater and the different bedrock systems. So the adequacy review. So as the protective water level is approached in the East Camp, the settling defendants have performed we call it a RAR, the Remedial Action Adequacy Review. And it's early, right? Because of the pilot project and because of different things, the settling defendants decided to start 4 years early because we haven't reached that 5410 protective water level. I believe we're about 60 feet below that right now. The RAR tech memo was submitted in November 22nd. We're currently reviewing. We do have several comments. I can say that there's about 36 pages of comments, and but the document is so massive with multiple attachments with water balance and different things like that. So complex stuff and very important to the remedy. Make sure that these water treatment facilities are adequate. So the new pilot project, the pilot scale water treatment plant called the pilot project, constructed in 2018-19, like I said, started discharging in October of 2019. Purpose is to test different off-site discharge scenarios, treating various water flow rates and qualities. Really just seeing what is going to work the best over the long term, right? The pilot project really is only scheduled for 4 to 5 years. So as we are testing these things and figuring that out, getting prepared for the long-term discharge. So the first photo you see up at the top, it's pointing at some media filtration canisters. I believe there's 6 of them. So that's what we've been running the water through currently and discharging to Silverbow Creek. Well, now the bottom picture are the new RO units, reverse osmosis. So those are just been installed, and so just last week the SDs submitted the demonstration and commissioning plans for that RO system. So we're reviewing that now and hoping to pilot that and start discharging with the RO system in place here in the near future. More on the pilot project discharge. This is down at the confluence of Blacktail Creek and Silverbow Creek. Discharge, well, September 30th. It was really October 31st. I made a mistake there. Discharge has to comply with discharge standards for off-site discharge of treated water, as identified in the 2002 CD. You know, things have been going really well with the discharge. Not a ton of hiccups, but as you know, new commissioning plants, there is going to be hiccups here and there. We had some pressure issues in the discharge and things like that. But as far as water quality, it's been doing a really good job, and we've been up and down with the amount, the volume, anywhere between 4 million gallons a day to 12 million gallons a day. And just to point out the pictures of this discharge structure, this is a part of the pilot. So this actual discharge structure will not be the long-term discharge structure. Eventually, we will look to reconstruct this in combination with when all the work's done under BPSOU as well. waterfowl protection plan. You know, I can't say enough about the settling defendants, Montana Resources, and Atlantic Richfield, and their efforts to put an advisory board together. And I think I heard you say Stella. Stella is in the audience. I got to hand it to her and her expertise and how she's put together this waterfowl advisory board, because it's this adaptive management approach is very unique. It's one of a kind. I don't, you know, you talk to experts, and I don't think anybody is doing this anywhere quite like Stella and the team has done. So very powerful, and it really helps us to ensure that we are ready, and we are doing our best that we can to not only know when large migrations are coming, and try to keep them off the pit, but also to haze them off the pit, because you can't possibly keep every single bird off the pit. So they've done a fabulous job, and that will continue to play out throughout time that the Berkeley pit water is there and is harmful to waterfowl. Upcoming Butte mine flooding CD amendment or ESD, haven't decided if it qualifies for an amendment yet, or if it's just a explanation of significant differences. But some of the changes include, you know, boundary adjustments, like I said, combining of private wells with BPSOU. Little background there were 7 wells in mine flooding that we were sampling, and we worked with Atlantic Richfield and decided, let's put all those into one pot, because there's a lot of private wells that need to be sampled under priority soils too. And we got Montana Bureau of Mines on board to help us with that. And so they've been working on that and developed the QAP for those private wells. And then, of course, the waterfowl protection plan, the new one, and then the cadmium standard change. DEQ changed that here a while back, so we need to make those adjustments in the standards. And then the Granite Mountain POC well, point of compliance well, there was some safety issues with that because it was under a head frame. And so the decision was made to drill a new well next to it that could be more safely sampled and monitored. Then we have the monitoring and operation maintenance on the mine flooding site. You can see in the upper part that is actually on site with infrastructure, you know, for water going through the water management, you know, coming from the pit from Horseshoe Bend to the Horseshoe Bend treatment plant, up to the Yankee Doodle tailings pond, and then back down to the polishing plant. So it's a pretty complex system of water management that's going on there. And then the drone boat here that the Montana Bureau of Mines developed remote control, so we can sample the pit without having to go on the pit. Because, you know, if you remember a few years back, 2013, there was a pretty significant landslide, and so there's some safety issues, and we want to keep it at a minimum. Anyone going down to the bottom edge of the pit. Okay, jumping to Butte priority soils. So, Daryl, I'm talking away. Jump in anytime.
You're doing great, Nikia.
All right. Butte priority soils. So 13 plus years in negotiations. Wow. But we're here. Parties have reached consent on one of the most challenging remedies in the nation. Consent decree was released on February 13th. Motion to enter. The CD was done on September 11th, and the district court approved it September 16th. So this is kind of the Bible of what's going to be happening here in Butte Priority Soils the next 5 years and beyond. And I'm going to go through that a little bit. This is what's really inside the consent decree. And for this presentation, we're going to focus on some of the appendices because that's the meat of the work. 8 appendices. The big one with the statement of work that has several scopes of work is Appendix D. You have Attachment A, the Compliance Determination Plan. B, the 2011 UAO Work Plan. B1, Ongoing Remedial Elements Scope of Work. Attachment C, which we'll go over in detail because those are the big elements, scope of work. Appendix A, that was the ROD amendment. So in Appendix A, really we were the fundamental change strictly for during wet weather events, total recoverable copper and zinc. So that was the big fundamental one, but it's much more capture. And one of the minor which is really a very large modification as far as what it means to Silverboat County. And that's why I want.
Nikia, you are cutting out a lot. I don't know how is other people how are other people experiencing that. I don't know. Is there anything about the microphone? Maybe.
There were, some expand entered into the CD at this time under order. Oh, can you not hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It's kind of just cutting out quite a bit in the past 5 minutes, I would say.
Okay.
It's good now.
Speak up if I'm cutting out again. Okay. Okay. So on August 31st, EPA issued a UAO amendment to the UAO, and it basically was just expanding the residential metals abatement program from county line to county line. Now the only difference about the RMAP program within BPSOU, within the blue outline, compared to the green shaded area, is that it's by request only. Otherwise, everybody basically in the county gets the same thing that you would inside BPSOU from the RMAP. Okay, Appendix D, statement of work, describes design requirements for remedial design and action and provides a framework for design implementation. Lists requirements for documentation and deliverables and provides a schedule for implementation and completion. It includes these other attachments, and we'll go into attachment C in a little more detail. The other ones aren't as large a projects. Again, 5 attachments. Attachment C This is the further remedial element scope of work. 9 major areas with construction plan. Includes end land use. I think maybe some of you have been to the end land use meetings that we had in 2018-19, or the Atlantic Richfield and Butte Silverbow had, excuse me. But there's a lot of work going on in this corridor. And you have Northside Tailings, which is going to be a catch basin and a fishing pond and land use. Diggings East, which is going to be a very large catch basin. Buffalo Gulch is going to be another large catch basin. So they're both about the same size, 10 acre-feet. But those are those two basins alone are really the impetus of trying to protect Silverbow Creek during storm events, because we have such an issue with stormwater. When it storms on the hill and comes down, we need to slow that water down and let those metals drop out. So that's the impetus of those two big catch basins, Buffalo Gulch and Diggings East. And then Grove Gulch, little catch basin there. Grove Gulch, we don't see a large copper load. I think it's like 0.3% from Grove Gulch. There are some issues going on up Grove Gulch, and so we're currently going to be investigating those and figure out what's going on. So that work's going on. And then Atlantic Richfield, this is not a part of Superfund, but the Lexington Wetlands, Atlantic Richfield decided that they wanted to improve that area as well. And then Blacktail Creek, DQ is actually going to be doing the work there. And we got a slide further down that Daryl will talk a little bit about that. And then Butte Reduction Works, that's a really big project where we're removing all the tailings within a certain swath between the Slag Canyon and the interstate or the railroad track, and then we'll be relocating Silverbow Creek out of the Slag Canyon into a new constructed stream. And I just wanted to point out too, in Northside Tailings and Diggings East, there's additional tailings removals. Appendix E, pretty important, institutional controls. Stormwater management, excavation, the domestic water hookup ordinances, access controls, the domestic well limits, covenants on properties containing waste, etc. So, and then Appendix H, this is the Blacktail Creek riparian outline, and I'll let you go on this one.
Sure. So the plan is to do very similar to what was done on Silverbow Creek down in Streamside Tailings, where we remove the floodplain. Basically, all the creek will be rebuilt in clean material. We'll first remove all the contaminated sediment we can access and rebuild the stream through there. And then we'll try to integrate the end land use, the trails, and connect this with all the rest of the park-like features in the Silverbow Creek conservation area.
And so with that, we're also revising the BPSOU community involvement plan, laying out a process for public participation, developing a new EJ action plan, been working with community members on that. And then we do have a new community coordinator, Dana Barnacote, who's been doing a great job and been in the community as much as we can during this pandemic, but I'm looking forward to seeing great things from Dana. excuse me, I just want to jump back here to and just talk a little bit about CTEC and how CTEC has committed to kind of being the conduit, the venue for public participation as it relates to what's going on with remedial design. How are we designing these different further remedial elements? And so I encourage listeners to get involved and be a part of CTEC, and because they are going to be an important conduit to that public participation. All right, Westside Soils. We're right at the beginning of Westside Soils with remedial investigation. I would say 90% of the samples have been collected in the main study area, Westside Soils, and then also south into Blacktail Creek and Basin Creek. We are also developing a new community involvement plan for Westside Soils, and then in a year and a half or so, we'll put together a proposed plan and a record of decision. Extensive sampling, over 500 mine waste dumps, mainly in this area outlined in red. That's the main study area. Am I coming through okay still?
Yes, we hear you well.
Okay. Surface water and groundwater sampling, both in main study area in Blacktail Creek and Basin Creek areas. We went all the way up to the tree line here because we do see some heavy metals in stormwater events in Blacktail Creek here at SSL1, right on the edge of BPSOU. And then we're also performing the human health and eco risk assessments. And then after Daryl and I receive the draft RI report and that becomes final, then we'll move into the feasibility study. We're hoping by the end of this year. Same thing with Westside Soils, public participation. It'll be outlined in the community involvement plan with the EJ action plan, and Dana's heading up that as well. And then we'll, like you said, move to the proposed plan and record of decision, scheduled to be completed by 2022, and then remedial design action will start in 2023. That's the plan. These are some of the dumps. Some rather large dumps. Most of them are pretty small, but there are some large ones in that main study area. And I think that's about it. Just looking at BPSOU remedial elements, mine flooding, Berkeley Pit, and then one of the larger dumps, I believe that, I forget what that dump is, but it's a big one. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much. We will give you an applause. Thank you. I don't know if you hear it, but